Everybody say it mean.
Who's that out there living the dream? Let's blow in the bean. Who's that still smoking all that green? Let's blow in the bean. Come on, y'all, let me hear you scream. Let's blow in the bean. Let's blow in the bean. Let's blow in the bean. Go.
Let's blow in the bean. Twitter pop, 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 pop. Twitter pop. We're just gonna jump into the Twitterverse. Actually, ultra breaking news. Kevin Gastelum versus Anderson Silva. That just hit like 30 minutes ago. And is there a clearing division of this legendary? Did Vitor Belfort's legendary division get created and Kevin Gastelum's going through it? Because he's beating Kennedy, who is on the way out. Vitor Belfort, who's on the way out. And now Anderson Silva, who's not running for the title in my eyes. I just see so many other fights for Anderson and Kelvin. Why make it now? What do you think about the fight?
I was chatting with people on Twitter, and it's like there isn't really a fight for Kelvin right now. Everybody's taken
booked
or hurt. Everyone above him.
Yeah.
So it's like the only person I feel like that was Derek Brunson, and I feel like he just was in a fight. So it's like their timing. Well, I guess Kelvin was too. But it was just like,
There's Yoel Romero. Who's he booked with? But he's so far ahead, he can only fight the champ. He can only fight the champ. But I did listen.
And you want to feed Kelvin now.
Not feed. That's a real fight. I watch that fight all day.
I feel like Kelvin, I would rather see him fight somebody in between that fight. Just for himself, still at the division. I'm really enjoying watching him progress at 185.
I feel like I was listening to Yoel on a interview.
And Anderson Silva, if they insist on fucking having him,
that's
somebody that can knock him out.
And
because that's who he wanted, because he felt like Kelvin was the easiest fight in the division. That's who. To me, it's not like Kelvin's a dick.
Yeah, no.
So, I would guess that Anderson sees it as the easiest fight around his number in the division. That's worth it. That's building steam, blood, whatever.
But it's interesting as a fight.
Oh yeah, and I don't think it's the easiest fight at all. I think
that's a tough ass fight.
I think Kelvin, it'll take him a while to wash the taste of 170 out of people's mouth and for people to respect him
himself. This is where he really, if he can get through Anderson Silva, I believe he's gonna affirm to himself that he can compete in the 185 division. And regardless of the scariest guys, they're gonna be the scariest guys, whether it's at 70 or 185. A champ's a champ. They do come with a little more power at the 85 division, though. Like,
whose dick did Kelvin suck to get the money fights?
I think it's the performances that he's been putting on.
Well, I guess it's not money fights at all. No belt involved. He's fighting for the same exact that he would be for whatever fight number this is.
I think that with Anderson Silva's co-main event still. He's not on the undercard.
Extra money regardless.
Yeah. It puts you in this another level when you can say you beat Anderson Silva. That goes, not that every fight doesn't go on your record, but that's a marquee win. That's something that you will always look back on, and that will really
and
repel you.
People are like, oh, well, it's old Anderson Silva. Yeah, but you know what? 30 years from now, no one will remember that.
And guess
They're
what?
Just going to be like, he beat Anderson Silva once, and only the other guy will be like, it was old Anderson Silva.
Anderson Silva knocked out the current champ in the second round with that knee. Michael Bisping?
Yeah, but this year.
Last year, 16. But
16, yeah.
But yeah. But
I always forget about that fight.
Anderson Silva loses decisions as he's come back. He's not getting outclassed by any means. So people that are just like, oh, he's washed up and it's not going to be a fight. Yeah, right. Anderson Silva's going to come to win. He came in and tried to beat Daniel Cormier, on 3 days. Don't think he ain't going to come after Kelvin. It's going to be a fun fight the more I'm looking at it, actually.
Where is it? Where is it taking place?
It's not in Dallas.
212?
I think I did see it was going to be 212. Yep, good call.
Is that 212 in Rio?
I think you're right on that. Yeah. He just went into Brazil and knocked the living daylights out of. Yeah, it's at Brazil. It's on Fox.
Oh, I don't know how.
That's the main event on Fox, exactly where Anderson should be. But Kelvin just got this last Fox.
Is this #UFC Rio? Is that what UFC?
The really interesting about people on Fox is that they have the people that they've pushed on these Fox cards that now Kelvin is Demetrius Johnson, he has been pushed more so than anybody on Fox and never gotten the accolades that he truly deserved. JJ's kind of in that boat too. She just recently moved to pay-per-view, but initially all of her championships and defenses were during Fox nights, and she would get the main spot because she was a championship, and regardless, any championship bout is the last bout of the night. The UFC rules, but interesting.
I feel like the UFC has had a rough start at the beginning of the year, but the more I am looking through the tunnel of how the year's laying out to come, I'm not mad at it. And nowhere do I see Conor on the card. So
yeah, I agree.
It brings us to our next question.
So,
which is just Twitter popping all over the place. What do you think about Floyd Conor now?
The arena's booked. We don't have a date, or do we have an official date? Is it like the 10th or 12th?
I feel like it's July 12th or something.
Yeah, I
like
think
that,
the date's set, but the venue might not be set.
People say they don't expect that it's going to happen so soon. They think this is just what's the harm of putting a down payment?
Well, let's see what the books
just to
put
build
out.
steam.
Yeah, exactly. I think that fight could still be done in that time frame. I think that totally can be done.
The way Twitter is now, you don't need a year to play. No. It's not the old school idea. You could sell a fight for as expensive as you want a month from now, and everyone's going to hear about it.
If you got the right promotion, and the fact that it's merging two big businesses together, and
will it be merging two big businesses together?
It'll promotionally. Is
Conor fighting out without the UFC? Are
it's
there going to be
a boxing
MMA
match.
Cards on
it's
this
not going to be
night?
MMA.
No, it's on this night. Will there be MMA fights? Will there be boxing fights? How is this night going to be laid out? Like, the whole thing's curious. This is going to be the biggest fight ever. Like, bigger than when Muhammad Ali fought. Bigger than, like, all these fights you hear about, like, the night that Tupac got shot.
Which recently happened. And what was it, just Biggie's also? Was it Biggie's recent? I know people were making a big stink about it, but yeah, I feel ya. I definitely feel ya.
What? Here, I'll edit that part out. You motherfucker, shut up. Okay. What were we talking about again? I'm like, this bitch threw me off. I forgot we weren't in a studio.
The Twitterverse, Floyd Mayweather versus Conor, and what we see is going to happen for this. I think it's going to be a boxing match. I think it's going to be in a ring.
There's no way it would be MMA.
I feel like there's going to be
0.000% is an MMA.
If there's a clause in the bout, I feel like it'd be like, if you decide to take Mayweather down or you decide to do anything outside the boxing ring, you automatically lose X amount of your contract. Like, it's legally, this thing is gonna be so airtight. It's gonna put Conor in the worst position to win, which is gonna be in a boxing match. And I feel like Conor might get the first 2 rounds as far as pushing him around with weight and being a bigger guy. But Mayweather isn't. I mean, he's like a $155, he's $160. He won't have to cut any weight at all, and he's gonna do what he's been doing since he was a kid, and what Conor's been doing kind of since he was 16. Floyd's been doing this since he was 6 years old, with Olympic caliber coaches honing his skills at that point in time. There's just no way that Conor comes out ahead on this. There's no way. But do you think the UFC takes a negative hit promotionally for having Conor lose? Because we see the Conor loss coming.
There's no way. Okay. I think Conor could knock him out. Wow. Conor's going to come out with the same way Conor comes out in the first 2 rounds now. And I don't think Floyd's ready for that. And Conor's huge. Floyd has never fought in a 40-year-old man body before, ever in his life.
Yeah.
Never will again.
Yeah.
Conor's in the prime of his career. And I think if he doesn't win in those first 2 rounds and Conor thinks for any time that he's not going to knock him out, if Conor loses a decision, it doesn't hurt the sport of MMA at all. Mm-hmm. If Conor knocks him out, I think it kills boxing.
I think it would be a nail in the coffin for boxing. And there's already a couple put in there. Like, it's not far off from being done. There's some new prospects in those divisions, but I just feel like they're new prospects because I'm like, when are they going to be done with that so they can come to MMA? Like, that's just my mind point of view of it. MMA Conspiracy. Fight Conspiracy. So, what other boxer do we know that fought into his 50s and was a champion? Bernard Hopkins. I recently found out within like the last year that there was a lot of allegations that he was juiced to the fucking tits.
Oh, I'm sure all of them. Do you think? I just don't believe that Tyson was that built cleanly.
Who's coming out of retirement for one off? And if he pops, what the fuck does he care? We may see the best Mayweather we've ever seen ever. Because this is going to be some other stuff. They might be like, do all the steroids you want, I don't care. Let's say if Floyd starts coming in looking more shredded than he ever has, you know the juice is flowing. You know the juice is going.
But I feel like Conor could have a stipulation in his contract about if he pops afterwards, he gets X amount of money.
Do we ever get to see boxing contracts?
I have no idea. I feel like you hear about people's purses because that's how people know so much about
the actual
Don. Like how much Don King got this much of this guy's purse. You always hear those. So I don't know. I feel like it's $100 million fight for Conor.
Everybody's looking to make money in that, and not a little bit of money. Everybody's looking to make globs and globs.
Bisping was also saying that he had heard through a friend of a friend of a friend that some guy screwed Floyd Mayweather over for a lot of money, and this fight would help him recoup that in the easiest way. Like,
remember when Floyd Mayweather's truck full of Porsches and Lamborghinis lit on fire in the middle of the Nevada desert?
Insurance money.
Uh-huh.
But this is the other thing, too. I also, when...
Just real quick.
Bisping said... Oh, go ahead.
Imagine yourself standing in a field watching those assets of yours just burn up. How would you feel? Like, what did you do to earn that? You earned that. You earned it. However you earned that, like, you'd just be like...
I don't know, or is a lot of it those... where it's the leased, that you live in a leased house with leased cars and contracts you can't pay, and
was that hood rich?
You know how you see a lot of the crib guys and they're like have this enormous house and they have like a couch, a TV, a video game system, and they're like, that's a room I don't go in. That's a room I don't go in. Here's my bedroom, and then it's all fancy in there, and then they go into their garage and that's tons of cars.
Toys.
Like some of the stuff they probably don't own. They probably lease, and they don't know. I think it's like the lifestyle to have the lifestyle, to rap about the lifestyle. So it's all like this. So I wonder how well managed Floyd is. I hope well at his age. Like, he's done enough for the sport.
Well, he's his own management now.
Yeah, I hope, but I just hope really smart. I hope it's all just not fluff numbers, and I hope he, if you get screwed for $100 million or whatever you need to coup from a fight with Conor, like, there's a lot of other guys he could pick if he just wanted money. He feels like Conor's a celebrity. This is what I feel like Floyd thinks of Conor McGregor. He feels like he is a celebrity and he doesn't think he's dangerous at all.
I could see that. And
that's the biggest mistake
to
Floyd.
Yeah.
You know that whole saying where it's like the biggest thing that the devil ever did was make people think he didn't exist or whatever. That's how I think Conor for Floyd. So I feel like those first 2 rounds, if Conor's been studying tape, like, we know these MMA guys see all of it differently.
Oh, yeah.
The whole entire thing. So if Conor's been studying tape of Floyd since he was a little 10-year-old kid, because he used to be a boxer, so if he's been studying that tape, and we've seen how he's exploited some of the most amazing guys in MMA, why couldn't he do the same thing to a boxer that has the same game plan that he's always had? He's like, I watch him back up here. He backs up 2 steps and cuts right. I'm going to clip him with a right when he's going to walk right into it. Like, Conor might know something like a computer would, or you know how friggin' I watched a Netflix about this kid who was like a chess freak, and he was amazing at chess, and I feel like that's how Conor sees fighting. Like that same way.
Wow.
I think John Jones sees fighting that way. I think Dominic Cruz sees fighting that way. I think certain of these few fighters, and that's why they're champions. Right. And I think they're going in there with next level stuff.
So you were saying Michael Bisping, and him saying that he had a friend that had let him know about Mayweather's potential money woes and things that he had ended up owing. Michael Bisping is a rough customer. We've been seeing a lot of wonderful media from him lately. Did you see his stuff for Eddie Bravo, where him and Eddie Bravo get in a drunk argument? Eddie Bravo already talked about it and said, hey, I knew where he was coming at. It was on the Fight Companion saying, like, Bisping, we were both drinking and whatever, and Bisping immediately DM'd him and said, I'm cool. And Eddie Bravo said, no, dude, you're right. I should have not been talking shit about you or just talking about you with you right there. And Eddie took it like a learning experience and said, like, he had a valid point, and he had the right to tell me I take offense to that. And that's Michael Bisping's kind of personality. Love him or hate him, he is his own man, and he'll let you know. He will let you know when he's not satisfied with something, and his eye is so close to being gone. Every time I see him look into that goddamn camera, I laugh. I just giggle like a kid when I think about it. Anytime someone's so cross-eyed, and I know he's cross-eyed for a reason, it's because his eye's filled with oil and other liquid because he's freaking detached retina / all that stuff that happens, and he shouldn't even be fighting. For reals. There's many people that have retired from this long ago, and he's just kept on proving why he's a champion. He's gonna go down in the Hall of Fame eventually. Champion, he won the show, UK star.
I think there's something interesting. It's like, and everyone knows that Eddie, he has some cocktails, he gets a little rowdy. Bisping has cocktails, gets rowdy. We saw him in the GSP thing, and it just seems like a lot of dudes. Some guys, when they drink, they get hot, depending on the kind of liquid.
We all have those friends.
Everybody has those friends.
We all have those friends.
So I feel like an interesting thing with Bisping, like when GSPs tries to mock him, like, oh, you have cocktails, why don't you go have some drinks? It's like, that doesn't offend certain European guys. To call, you drink you drink beer. Like, that doesn't offend him at all. But I also think there's something, some guys are martial artists and some guys are fighters. And not to say that some guys aren't both, but Michael Bisping is a fighter. And
agreed.
GSP is a martial artist, and a lot of the martial artists, like the Shevchenkos and the GSPs, and they live their whole life in a style of martial arts. Tony Ferguson, their lifestyle emulates what they do in the ring. And some of the other guys are fighters. They'd be fighting if they weren't in the octagon. They'd be that guy. And Bisping's totally that guy. He'd be a guy that was, you'd be like, oh shit.
If people in the media start trying to put the onus, and I love how Michael immediately said, like, dude, hey, GSP, don't try to make this about me drinking, because it's not. You're scared. You think I'm an easy fight, and I'm going to show you I'm not an easy fight. I love that response by him, but he just freaking defended a title not long ago. Right now, he's not in a camp. He just learned he has a camp. So if he's drinking, right now's the time to drink. Guess when it's not the time? As the fight keeps getting closer and the date's already set. So you're not going to you shouldn't be seeing him, hopefully, in any more drunk interviews, because he's in a fight camp now, but he wasn't at the time.
When is that fight? We don't have a time or place, do we?
I thought there was it Dallas? No, it's not Dallas.
No, I don't think we have a destination for that fight yet.
So then he could still be showing up on a couple drunk videos these weekends coming up, and I'm not going to be angry because we don't have a time frame. Once we have a time frame and he's like, okay, I got to stop drinking 8 weeks out. He knows his own body better than anybody else.
Oh, did you hear? I should look it up to pay homage, but it was like a 14-year-old kickboxer died in the ring.
Oh, I did not hear that.
Yes,
that's horrible.
It is
14
so
years
horrible.
Old. That's one of those things where, as a global fight community, as we're growing, a lot of people are taking into account traumatic brain injury, and I feel like if you talk to real old fighters, a lot of old fighters, they won't have these kids fighting when they're even 14. A lot of people are starting to be like, wait till you get 20, 25 is when your brain stops developing, so that's probably the ideal time to be in contact sports. But on a developing mind, CTE or TBI, horrible, absolutely horrible. It can change your life, because all of a sudden you lose impulse control because you have frontal lobe damage, and that can get you hooked up with into fights at school, and all of a sudden you get into the system. Like, it's really easy, and people do not think about it. And not that I'm saying don't be a fighter, I'm just saying know what you're getting into. so that later on in life, you understand why you're putting yourself in the situation you are, because you won't understand it. And I've worked with people with TBI, and it's really tough. One of them was a boxer who was beat half to death in the ring, and that's why he was at the home he was at, because he could barely tie his own shoes. He could barely talk. I mean, it was really, really interesting. So it really made me take a point of view, or take a look back at what I was doing. I really love jiu-jitsu and wrestling. You don't take any of that head trauma, and I don't know what happened.
If you choke somebody out, you both can fight the next day.
Right, that's why you tap. Exactly. As long as they let go. Because if you don't let go, then, yeah, it's the same thing. But
you're dying. Oh, no, sorry.
Right. Poor kid. Hopefully other people can learn from this. It could have been a freak thing. Could have been a heart murmur that, regardless, I mean, some people have those. There's basketball
everything
players.
I read, it said, the ref did everything right.
I know nothing about it.
I feel like I should just pull it up and read the story right now for anyone who's like, don't just
And was
leave
it in
me
the United
hanging.
States, or was
sitting
it
on a lawnmower right now and I cannot get off to go see what story you're talking about.
Other Twitter.
Roy Nelson will be off suspension. That's something going on.
Fun. I mean, what fights do I want to see him? None.
I actually think I would rather, there's some fighters like Ngannou that I'd rather see before. I think they could still build up Derek Lewis and Ngannou before making them face each other. And I think making them run through these guys to see how much they're pulling, to see how the numbers weigh out, to see if we want to make room. Because you got to look at it like a company like that they are. Uh-huh. You're paying a Roy Nelson $200,000 for a fight card.
And it's true. It's true. He does come in with a bigger salary because the amount of history that he has in the ring, that they have to pay him so much. He's never getting 8-8 again, ever. And he's only going so far down. He's not out of the main card yet, ever as well. You could use him as a stepping stone. But there's many...
I think they have a fight booked for him, actually.
Already, but prior to him even being on suspension. Wow.
I just read that.
Who would be a good... Ngannou?
It's no one good. It was. I already said it was Lewis. Let's see. I don't want to say it's no one good. You'll probably be like, oh, that's a good fight. Roy Nelson returns from Alexander Volkov.
Volkov comes over from Bellator. That's fun. Bellator. He was the Bellator champ, but he did get knocked out as the Bellator champ. He has got a crafty ground game off of his back, and his striking isn't bad. Roy Nelson can take a freaking punch, and his jiu-jitsu credentials is what got him into the fight. It's not an easy fight for Volkov, and people always underestimate Roy Nelson because of his size, because of it. He looks fat and out of shape, and that man is never come into a fight out of shape. He looks big, but he's not. He's legitimate. Freaking Derek Lewis, he held it. His head held on by a mullet strand, but it held on, and he was able to go. Was that a 5-round fight? And everybody said that's not going 5 rounds. It went 5 rounds. Maybe it was a 3-rounder.
I'm tweeting out the story right now that.
You're retweeting it just so people... Perfect. BBC News, yep.
All right, so his name was Scott Marsden. He was Marsden, and he was 14, and he dies after Leeds title fight. Look at that young kid and his proud
baby.
parents.
He doesn't even have hair on his chest.
Scott Marsden was taken to the hospital after needing urgent medical attention during the fight in Leeds on Saturday, but later died. Scott was a member of Marsden All Styles Kickboxing in Sheffield. John Green, president of World Kickboxing Association England, said Scott was a well-loved and respected fighter and sportsman. So they're making inquiries into what happened, but the death was not being treated as suspicious. The Marsden All-Style Kickboxing Club posted a statement on Facebook on Sunday, which said training was canceled until further notice. Unfortunately, Saturday night's English title fight had to be stopped due to Scott needing immediate medical attention. There was no way to foresee the fight ending in such a way as at no point were either ever in any overwhelming danger of each other. Everyone is still in shock as there are simply no signs to suggest the fight needed to be stopped. The referee stepped in to protect Scott as soon as he could, which meant Scott did not hit the canvas and was laid down and straight into recovery position. A fundraising appeal has been set up for Scott's family, and tributes to the young kickboxer have been posted on Facebook.
So it was something like a standing TKO, it sounds like to me, and then they placed him on the ground once they realized that he was,
Scott
out.
Marsden, yeah. So you guys can look it up. I'm sure there's...
And that's really, really unfortunate.
Yeah,
it
donate
could be
to his fund.
Yeah, it could be 1 in a million. It happens.
It happens in every sport. I mean, every high school I know has that, one story of, there's a kid that died on my field at my high school that was just a normal, healthy kid, and he just died.
Yep.
I feel like, it's every sport. Some guy, it could be one of those things where they had a, heart murmur or a hole in their heart or a million other things that isn't brain trauma, but I do totally agree with you, Kids,
you got to keep it in mind.
Kids need to be careful. It's the same as drugs. Anything that affects your brain in any way, wait until you get a little older to fuck around with it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. A really interesting thing that is coming out in the boxing world, the Olympics just did away with it, is headgear in boxing. Have we talked about this on the podcast already?
I don't
That
think
they took
so.
away headgear in boxing. This is really interesting when it comes into this TBI talk.
Though, right?
Because it's more dangerous, because it actually is blocking the peripheral, and we know that subconcussive hits, regardless of padding or not, still is that rattling of the brain inside of the cranium. So it's really just the immediate impact. So that if you take something that actually helps you move your head or makes it easier and isn't such a big target, you'll do much better. I think that's really, really interesting. I'd never thought of it before. And I think that's a really good point of view. I really like it. I don't know the science behind it. This is also a reason why I never ever liked bare knuckle boxing. Absolutely. I know they're trying to do it in New York and whatever, and I was like, no, we have UFC. We don't need to do that. But in bare knuckle boxing, I feel like the TBI can be dramatically lower because you can't throw the punches you throw in the UFC or in a lot of these striking sports, because in bare knuckle, you don't have your hands wrapped. And the sole reason for you to have your hands wrapped is so that you don't break your knuckles and that you can inflict damage on your opponent with your bones that you're now throwing at them. And in bare knuckles, you just can't do that. So it tends to be a very body-oriented attack. A lot of kidney shots. You can dig into a body without a glove all day. All day. Yeah, and those knuckles right up in your ribs, they'll make you throw up.
Oh, I just pulled up James Krause reveals gruesome scar after staph infection surgery.
Oh shit, James Krause! Damn, his shin. It looks like his right
Anderson
shin.
Silva leg.
It looks like the scar is going directly from the bottom of his knee to the top of his ankle, and it looks like it's
All
at
the
least
way
30
open.
stitches. At least 30 stitches.
Oh
in
my
there?
gosh, at least.
At least 30 stitches.
Least.
This is a good point.
Big stitches. It looks like 30 staples. It looks like stitches and staples. It looks like a nightmare, is what
Always
it looks like.
a good PSA that we can just move right into with this. Always wash your mats. Always wash your clothes. Don't be a dirty ass and have stinky clothes because you think it's funny to get guys to roll it with you. You can get staph. It can be transferred for other people with staph. A thing that I didn't realize that Eddie Bravo and a lot of other people have come out with, and this is 100% proof. There's a common thing at most gyms that people say, use a antibacterial soap. It will clean all of the germs off of you rolling and you'll be fine. That is wrong. That actually makes it a perfect petri dish, your skin a perfect petri dish for staph infection, because it takes away all the beneficial flora that you've built up. So you actually should be using, there's a product out there called Defense Soap, and Defense Soap is for grapplers, or you can look for like grapplers type soap on Amazon, stuff like that. You'll be able to find it online. But this is a soap that works with your natural flora, that helps cleanse you, but it doesn't allow this type of staph and other nasty skin things come up. They've got some good smells. They definitely have a variety. They've grown over the years.
Yeah, this could be from a surgery and then a hospital staff too.
It could be that. It could be, but staph infection,
but
we've
it's
had
usually
multiple fighters.
because hospitals they cannot fight antibiotics anymore because they're prescribing antibiotics, and so now they're having rampant outbreaks of this in hospitals all across the country because people over medicate.
Did you know that there's actually in the avian community there's antibiotics that they specifically withhold from the community. You can't do that same shit like we do with people, where you just can go to your doctor and say, give me antibiotics. Because this antibiotic they have for avians, avian fowl, is so volatile that it can mutate anytime. So they are not even letting people overprescribe it.
And this
they
is
are
what I have to
only
say.
use it very specifically.
If that exists with anything, it exists. It means it for everyone. Like when you hear people say, "Oh, don't let pregnant ladies clean the cat box." Why? Oh, because there's chemicals in the cat box that are really bad for her and the baby. That means there's chemicals in the cat box that are bad for everyone.
Everybody.
It's just we're going to see the immediate signs of what it does because she has a baby in her belly.
Right.
And it would horrify us probably like, God damn, cat litter could do that to a baby? We'd probably be like, get this out of the house. Like, so I feel like there's things that they just don't let pregnant ladies do and eat, and like soy. They're like, oh, pregnant ladies can't have too much soy because it'll induce their pregnancy. Like they can, I think it's soy that can.
Really, I don't know shit about any of that shit. I'm just like,
yeah. So I just feel like there's so much weird shit that they don't know anything about it. There's just like some company making money off some shit that you have to put in your body. So antibiotics, and you know what? The less antibodies you have, the more likely it is you're gonna get sick again. And if it's not by this thing, it's gonna be by the next thing. And there's always the next thing out there because you're meeting people all day, every day.
Agreed.
And so I just feel like keep your antibodies in there.
No, I agree.
Let the little soldiers work for you.
I agree.
They'll take care of themselves.
Yeah, you wash your hands, but you can't overdo
Sometimes
it.
you get a cold, people.
Yep.
And your body will work it out.
Yeah, I
like
agree.
it'll work it out. Anyways, unless you have anything else to say.
Nope. All valid points. I'm in that frame of mind
The other
as well.
thing over the weekend, Hector Lombard was in a car accident.
Was that here in Florida? I saw photos of that, and he is lucky to be alive.
Yeah, he walked away unscathed,
Yeah.
but the car is gnarly.
It is smashed in. It looks like on the passenger side, so hopefully he was driving and nobody was with him, and because that looked like it was okay. But his passenger side is flat. I mean, the seat's leaning back. You could have seen where it would have hit his head. But do you know about what happened? Did he hit like a watermark? Did he hit something?
knows?
Was he running away from freaking the T-1000?
Let's see. Hector Lombard hasn't had much luck in the cage over the past year, and depending on your point of view, that bad luck may have begun to follow him outside the octagon. Photos and videos posted up of the middleweight fighter show the aftermath of a bad car accident with Lombard's windshield shattered and roof crumbled. Fortunately, it doesn't sound like anyone was seriously hurt in the incident.
And that comes to us via Bloody Elbow.
Yes, bloody or MMAmania.com. Ma, turn off that commercial. Don't even try that.
Advertising.
But yeah, that is
Our Twitter pop.
yeah. The only other thing going on Twitter pop is Rachel Maddow is about to release Trump's emails,
Oh,
and
shit.
everyone's losing their mind.
Oh shit!
Or
Is it
emails,
Maddow or was it WikiLeaks?
tax returns?
Tax returns.
Yeah, tax returns.
Wah, 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 wah,
Tonight.
Wah. Goddamn, people are stabbing motherfuckers in the back right now. That Vault 7 shit is off the chain. That shit is getting deep. They're dropping dimes on people. This lady's dropping dimes on people.
WikiLeaks with Vault 7.
fucking- not only that, the goddamn Russians are dropping dimes on people. The Germans, but we're in a time where we're all finding out real time. I stay up at night watching some of this shit. We haven't really gotten too much into it because we like to stay on the UFC stuff, but this is current relevant shit. This is going to affect us further. You're going to remember, like, 9/11, not that I want to, and not negatively that I'm putting it in terms, but you will say
honestly,
post 9/11, that's how much it's
never
affected
forget.
us. Never forget. So,
So you will remember it, but you should never forget.
you should never forget it.
Sorry if there's people out there that are
I know,
not.
I'm
Just
what's happened is that in the saying never forget, you've immortalized it, but this could be like, remember pre-Trump's taxes? There can be a post
yeah.
Trump and or global situations happening in the world right now.
Here's the question I have: where did Rachel Maddow get these? Do you think she was out there doing investigative report, like crawling through the trudge?
That bitch doesn't pick
crawling
up
to-
shit.
Where do you think she got these tax returns?
WikiLeaks
I don't think WikiLeaks really
messes with her because she's a shill, right? Like
She's
she is the
totally a
epitome
shill.
of a shill.
I think her and Anderson Cooper are the same person, and we know he's CIA.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So yeah, well, the Democratic Party then. It was probably some sort of Democratic faction that doesn't have ties, but really does.
And we know they're corrupt.
Everybody is. Come on.
And I mean, yeah, and you know, can you imagine, like, this is just what I, like, Trump is this, like, douche. He's hanging out. He's, like, you know, he's rich. He has, like, planes and cars and high rises. And he is like, oh, I'm going to run for president. And he has no idea the shitstorm. Like, do you think he really intended on becoming president the day he ran for president? Or do you think it was like a goof?
I think that early in his career, it was a goof. And I feel like he started to see that he could. I remember that they were posting stuff that people were asking him back in the 80s if he was going to run for president. And he was saying, no, if America calls for me, making himself look better. But he could have just been waiting later on in his life. I mean, he is he 70?
I think 60? He's like 70.
70. He ain't that young. He ain't that young. Fake tan only brings you back so far. I mean, you can only look 68 for so long. And yeah, I think he's doing some really interesting things. I think it's shaking everything up, and it's fun. It's entertaining. I follow him on Twitter, and I laugh my ass off. And
you're like, oh shit,
don't like some
Trump's
stuff
going off today.
Exactly. I love all of it, and it's just, it look to me, I like to watch other TV shows and stuff, but this is the real life TV show. We're watching the real games being played right now, and real people are running right now. Real people are hiding. Real people are just shitting their pants in other countries. We've all, as countries that have been a part of alliances or not, everybody spies on everybody. We all know it. The fact is that now all of us people and common folk get to be along for the ride and watch it. And now maybe we'll all unite for some reason to correct or change what we don't like. Because,
well, I think, like, there's another, people are like, this is horrible. What does this do for the office of the presidency? And you're like, really? Like, there hasn't been, every single president's a scoundrel of some sort. Like, some sort of nasty scoundrel. Shit
comes up on a lot of them.
And it's like, well, who are these noble people that everybody is dreaming about? And I think the reality is the younger generations don't see nobility in the office that these old people
because
see.
It's been corrupt.
So they don't, like, having a guy like Trump in the office, they're like, this is, like, there had to be the swaying vote. And so there had to have been people that fell outside the normal, like, who you'd expect to vote for Trump lines. Like the old people, pretty much the old white people. People are like, they got them. But there had to be people on the outliers, and there had to have been Obama voters that voted for Trump. And it's just interesting. Like, I think a lot of people were like, this is what I think of your system. Put a Trump in it. Like, here's what I think of it.
Yeah.
And really, it was just like, am I going to put somebody in there who I can watch this system, this cogged machine, just keep chugging along? Or do I want to put a stick in here, in this cog machine, and just see where all the springs land?
This is just to go back into all that prior election stuff. We're kind of
we're falling off.
I feel like I can get into sports betting a little bit, because like we go in our post show and tell you how it played out. Prior to this podcast, we didn't really talk about this, but in our own getting high rooms, we would always say, I felt like the Mexican vote was going to come out for Donald Trump. And post-election, we know, and people can say, I told you so, but I feel like you could be my credibility that during and prior to that election, I felt like Latinos were going to come out actually for him much, much heavier.
Because what people forgot and what we talked about, and I think it was like 33% of the vote, and even more than Mitt Romney had, but what we talked about is Latinos have family values that no matter what they try to sell, and they're watching fucking El Telemundo, they're watching CNN.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter how much Rachel Maddow or one of these people on these talking head, and that have been proven to be fake. That's the other thing. If I don't care where the information came from. I don't really care if it came from WikiLeaks or Russia or where the information came from. I feel like that's a separate problem that we have to deal with. Okay. Take that aside from the argument. we have proven that they were in cahoots with the DNC getting questions and going against Bernie Sanders. Proven that they're corrupt and they were getting fake stories and running fake news. We've seen the Nancy Grace things. We've seen all the side by side where, so it's like there's so much, it makes me angry with how much I agree with Donald Trump on, when I like that he called CNN fake news and they try to act like they're all noble and on the right side of things, but it's like, no, there's right on both sides of this.
Right.
There's right on both sides of this, and we're so busy throwing, like, and I think this is where the younger generation is a little different, is they're over the shit throwing. They're like, you guys can keep throwing shit back there. We want to get our country back together and do stuff. And they keep, the young people, they don't care. The young people do care.
Agreed.
The young people do care.
But we're talking on this different media.
They don't even know we're here.
Exactly.
That's what they're not paying attention to. So there's so much else going on in the world that they're so busy trying to get their, really, how many people are tuning in to watch Jimmy Fallon anymore? It's like, James Corden driving in a car is probably getting 10 million more views.
I think it's already, for me, it's already like, who else is on there? I don't want to see it anymore.
I just mean he's getting more by any of his carpool karaoke's than anyone's ever tuning in to Jimmy Fallon for a whole week combined. A 10-minute car karaoke gets more views, so you can sell the same commercials on there and people can flip through
and
8 minutes.
Each view is getting watched because that person's, because the interaction between you and the computer is so much different than your TV, which just shoots at you. So they can say your TV's on, you're it. But if somebody clicks on a video, that they're in front of their computer and or mobile device, and that advertisement is directly affecting them.
I just want to say too, we're getting off fight topic. Like, if you
we got
listen
fights
to our,
to talk about.
Yeah, we got fights to talk about. I just wanted to let our listeners know that we've been listening to a lot of fight podcasts lately that have been talking about other stuff, and it's kind of making us like these opinions out there that are so Hollywood based, and I've lived in Los Angeles, so I know what a bubble it is to live in this idea, and they're all making they're in a bracket. Most of them are like white dudes that make at least over $200K a year, and that's me being, and they're talking fights. That's the demographic, and most of them live in Los Angeles.
Oh, this group of people that are
every fight podcast I listen to.
Oh, okay.
So I just am tired of the one-sided opinion of all that stuff. So I feel like I'll let the big dogs lead the way. But if they're going to talk about it, I'm going to talk about it too. So we're like, we're Team Eddie Bravo over here.
I
so
totally agree. Mexican legend.
all day.
Mexican legend. He's definitely talking some good shit. I sent you
He's so smart with how he said. People think that he's just silly, but he has just a clever comedy with the way he brings up subjects.
He's really satirical, and I feel like he's a Mexican kind of humor guy. Very sarcastic, and he's just like, can't have that drink. I love what he said, the Indio comes out in him when he gets drunk, because that's the truth. That's the truth. You get too many beers in the bean over here, and you'll get a little Indian on your ass. You get that wonk eye all of a sudden, and you'll be talking to a shark. You'll just be talking to something that's in the room. But I love Eddie Bravo. Love all of his...
Because he was on Alex Jones.
Yeah.
And Alex Jones gets that wonk eye and talks to sharks.
Remember when he was having Eddie punch him? And Eddie's the type of guy who's like, you're going to tell me to punch you? Okay. And he's all being tough or like holding his shoulder over to Eddie, and they're off the rails, and Joe's just like...
So crazy. That was crazy.
But what was really interesting with that I didn't know, that was Joe Rogan's biggest podcast ever, and like the second biggest podcast of all time.
I tried to find something,
and I couldn't verify any of that either.
I tried to verify it too, and I was wondering if that was Alex Jones being Alex Jones.
I want to actually send out a hashtag Joe Rogan. Can you post that document that Alex Jones said you have it, or verify it on your podcast somehow? If I did show him that, and it's the truth. Like, we need to know for reals. Is that really happening? Are they suppressing your information? Alex Jones also said that Joe Rogan wasn't able to get his feed up for a day and a half, which usually they're up within 20 minutes of them being over. Do you remember him saying that verse with Eddie Bravo?
Yes.
So, I want to know if that's true as well, Joe. Like, let us know. I'm listening.
I know, but why isn't Joe saying that stuff anymore? Why isn't that the Joe
I
Rogan?
think
He used to be that Joe Rogan.
I'm starting to listen to other stuff. I love Joe. Don't listen to him, a lot of his comic stuff. I'm going abroad.
I do like that Joe. I just noticed for the first time. Yeah, I'm expanding as well.
Yeah, I'm expanding my podcast views for sure.
And I'm wondering, like, some of the guys that have been on of recent, either they've been on too much or
Yep.
I don't give a shit.
Yep.
And it makes me like
Yep.
that's either one or the other.
Well, I know what Bo story's coming out, so I'm like, all right, I can listen to something
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I even tried. I tried to listen to a few, and I'm like,
I know what's gonna happen. I don't need to waste these 15 minutes. Oh, here's something that's...
I really
good.
enjoyed, though, the last breakdown.
The Fight Companion, you mean?
You're the Fight Companion. Sorry.
Yeah,
Fight
that
Companion.
was... That... They rarely talked about fights. They talked about some of the big knockouts that were happening during. They played it a day after the fact.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. I don't know if I prefer that. I don't know. I watched it or listened to it.
I liked it because there was a lot of stuff that I felt like I think it's interesting what Brian Callen doesn't know. That's kind of common knowledge, even if it is conspiratorial. And it's so they talked a lot about the JFK assassination.
Yes.
And
Loved that.
I thought that was
Loved
interesting.
it. That was
and
what I
Brendan
loved.
Schaub's super interested in that stuff, and that's
And
what.
you could tell him some shit.
Yeah, and I thought that was kind of cool, but I also thought Big Brown was right on so much stuff about the UFC. It was Joe Rogan disputing a lot of people's stuff and being wrong about everything. I felt like it was a big podcast of Joe just being wrong.
Uh-huh.
And from stuff with Brian Callen but he was more relaxed about being wrong. And another thing that I realized is Eddie, he's on this like apology tour where he...
I totally have seen that too. I'm like...
It's not just with Bisping that he apologized.
You say it once, twice, you're good.
Yeah.
You're done.
It's not... Yeah,
once
it's not
they
just...
say, once they say it's all good, you're done.
Yeah, it's something he's on a next plane maybe of meditating or something.
That DMT's hitting.
Yeah, because he even went to Alex Jones and apologized a bunch to Alex.
This is when I traveled abroad. When I was in the military, I got to live on mainland Japan, and we would see it, and it was amazing. It would be two elderly... Usually it was women. The men would bow and leave. The women would get in bowing battles. And you would see them bow, because in their culture, whoever gets the last bow shows the most amount of respect. So they try to outbow each other. But you'll see ladies take half steps, turn around and bow, and then the other lady will just stand at her shop door or her house and just stay there so she gets to be planted in her feet.
Japanese version of no, you hang up.
Yes,
No,
yes,
you hang up.
Yes,
no.
yes. But it's
okay. I'll hang up. No, I just want to hear your voice. Hang up. I love you too. Hang up.
It's exactly that, and it's just to prove who's more gracious, I guess. And I feel like Eddie's doing that same thing where him and Alex were just like, no, I'm the most sorry. I gotta tell you that I gotta tell you I'm sorry. And it got very, all right, guys, you're missing
Well, this
it.
is the other thing that I feel like is shit happening to all forms of entertainment is all these entertainers are reading their Twitter comments too much, almost like criticisms. And so what both of those guys did in that moment was read their Twitters of how everyone yelling, I wish Eddie Bravo would shut up, I wish Eddie Bravo would, and then they were yelling at Alex, I wish Alex would do this, I wish Alex would do that. So that was them reading everybody else's thoughts about the interview and them bringing it out to each other instead of just being like, screw the people on Twitter. If I had a good time that day. Did you have a good time that day? Yeah, I didn't notice anything was weird until Twitter.
Yep.
I didn't think anything was crazy until we read Twitter. So I think there is some form of the entertainment that's being lost because people are getting so weird with how they're coming across when the trolls aren't the truth. Your fans, it's like whatever your hole is, whatever niche you fall into, that's your truth.
You're able to tell what's constructive and what's just somebody trying to get a rouse out of you.
Yeah, if you let's say you have 10 assholes that all have something to say, like shut up, Alex was just about to talk about, shut up, Eddie. I thought, though, too, I will be honest, I feel like I was one of those people that tweeted, Eddie, put a cork in it. So, that part. But he didn't need to apologize more than once for it.
Yeah, I agree. There was what are you gonna do? They've went on each other's podcasts. They're trying. They're getting it out there, and they're what I appreciate by all people that are taking in on this is thank you for being a part of it, because it lets you in on their lives where it puts them in real vulnerable spots. And the more we do this, the more I see where that can really take over, and you just kind of got to learn to deal with it, and you don't feed the trolls.
It's just funny because Jake Shields just posted, blacked out. Bisping was so wasted he doesn't even remember the Eddie Bravo incident. So I think that's a perfect ending to Twitter Pop.
So we have fights coming up this Saturday. Early fight night.
It's early?
Ooh, 1 o'clock, because it's
1
in the
p.m.?
1:30 here in the East Coast.
You hear that, everyone? It's late enough
So
in the
it's
week
10
to make your
a.m.?
clocks. Everything's okay with your clocks at this point.
Yeah, we just had that horrible time change. My body's still jacked up.
So it's going to be
I'm
1
cranky as
p.m.
shit.
Eastern Standard Time, is what you're saying to me.
1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
That the early prelims start.
Yes,
Okay.
that they start on Fight Pass. And I believe it's going to be a Fox FS1. And I think it stays on FS1. Maybe not. I could be wrong on that. But yeah.
We'll let you know later in the week. We'll get
Either
more
way,
specific.
there's some gems in here. There's some fights in here that are gonna be hard to call. I'm seeing another weekend like we just had these 2 last weekends in a row. We're getting some good fights, and there's a lot of prospects out here because we are going to the UK to London for this. But there's gonna be some definite movement in divisions.
And we'll be talking about this the whole entire fight night. You guys can follow us, hashtag LATB on Twitter. Follow us at Lesbian the Bean. And we'll be tweeting the same hashtags you will. It'll probably be, I think the hashtag's UFC London for this the whole time.
We'll be all over that.
Facebook too. Look us up. Add us as a friend.
Lena
Go ahead.
Landsberg. I don't think we're going to even go through all these. I think we should just look at the ones that we're like, oh, okay.
I actually am interested in the Lena Landsberg because I had just... Right off the gut, these are both, they don't even have this other girl's age up here, and that means a lot to me.
Did she debut? Is it her debut in the UFC? I have never heard of her that I can think of.
Yeah.
Submission. Yeah, she's debuting in the UFC. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't know much about her. We got to do
some.
But
Landsberg, she just fought Cyborg.
Right.
Yeah, we can move it on up. We'll talk more about that one later. So, this fight, do we want to go into Scott Askin?
I think that just the marquee ones. There's like 3 of them that we can just be like, just these real quick.
Can't
because
wait till
Luke,
Breeze,
if you want to. Breeze Abuja.
Seki,
That's going to be a really fun fight. That's going to be a striker's delight. Cannot wait to see that one.
Main card. All right. So, the Makwan Amir Khani.
Yep. Versus Arnold Allen. Is he from Canada? American was just on, or what's his... Americani was just on a podcast talking about, or on a radio show, talking about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, he was getting robbed, or his house was getting robbed, someone was getting robbed, and him and his brother were at the house, and they ran out to go get the people. They came out the side that his brother was at. Miracon ended up running through the house and seeing his brother getting in a fight with a guy, and he saw a shiny object in the guy's hand, and all of a sudden he saw red and he jumped all over the guy. And really funny interview. I really recommend it. I feel like it was on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
That I'm wondering if this is a red flag. You know how I have different conspiracies on what side that Bruce Buffer stands on, or who's the photo when you look on your YouTube and it says it's going to be the UFC post-fight presser. Whoever the person is that is on the photo of the post-fight presser usually is the person that wins. That always holds to be true. So another red flag. Does the person lose or win when they have this kind of incident before a fight? Because Pettis, I think, wasn't one of the Pettis. Was it Pettis or was it
John Jones won?
John Jones, Shevchenko.
her coach got shot.
Yeah.
That's not really.
Don't you,
Well,
but involved.
But were they in a bar fight or something?
I don't know
think
if
they
she
were
was
in a bar.
involved.
They were getting robbed, so it was them defending their like property, or it was like their sister-in-laws or something. But either way, once he thought a knife was there, he knocked the dude out with one punch, and then they held him until the cops got there, and they ended up taking the dude
guy
off.
probably
and then
never
even
expected that Superman.
all
was
of a
there.
sudden, right? And a really funny thing that I thought he made light of it by saying, man, like his little brother, he's like, the first little bit he saw, he's like, damn, bro, don't become a fighter. You don't know how to fight. Leave it to the pros. Like, it was pretty funny, but he's a refugee. Really interesting story. They're going to put a lot of, I think, money into him. Alan's out of the UK. Alan actually has some really good wins. He has a submission choke over Omar, who was a prospect who went nowhere, and then he beat Yatsen Mays, who I believe is out of the UFC. But those are still quality. He
Big
has
kid.
experience. Yeah, he's
Just a big
11-1.
pounder.
I got to do much more
And
studying on
I do
this
like
fight.
this too, that look at another young kid prospect. It's like the UFC is fluffing their back end with a lot of these younger fighters and building their backstories and doing.
They gotta pay them so they stay in, because there's guys that are questioning whether they want to do it or not, and they should never question it because it's a sport that
we should get rid of
affects you.
Reebok, but that's
Waiting.
for another year.
We're waiting. Pickett Vera, what we can talk
This
about
is my
this is
back and
short
forth
notice.
though on this real fast.
Yeah.
I just think Vera wins this all day. I don't have an issue with him winning
short
this. Here's
notice.
that doesn't. I just feel like a lot of these guys sometimes they're trained for other stuff, or they're getting ready, or they want to be called for anything, and fighting a guy like Brad Pickett in his hometown. But you also just think, are they just setting up Brad Pickett here for just a good Brad Pickett style win, or is he not capable of that?
He made his name off of Demetrius Johnson. That's it.
That was a ass whooping.
Yeah. And
do you think the hometown crowd's gonna like?
I think the short notice replacement is either a godsend or it's his undoing. Because it's like the Rockhold Bisping. Rockhold's getting ready for somebody else on 7 days. Rockhold gets somebody completely different, and he's not ready for that punch, and it gets him, even though it landed in their previous fight. But
here's the other thing: can he cut that much weight to get to 135 in time?
Vera has gassed in fights that he has had full training camps for. But I believe he is at ATT. No, Jackson Winklejohn. Oh, stellar camp. If he's not at ATT, Winklejohn is the next best
But that's
thing.
an extra 10 pounds of his last fight. What he weighed in at last time.
As cutting down, he's cutting down.
He's cutting an extra 10 pounds to get to 135 off his last weigh-in cut.
This is where
10
our
pounds lower than
podcast
his
comes
last.
into.
But it's just something for me to think about now that I
to be
didn't notice
watching.
before.
To something to be watching for sure. I think that's a really good point, because he doesn't have 8 weeks to cut the weight either. He's gonna have to dramatically try to do it. Guess who just dropped out of a fight because they didn't do it right?
And guess who they call one punch for a reason?
Truth.
But who knows? We'll get there when we get there. Joe Ban versus Nelson.
Ooh-wee.
It's such a tricky fight.
Is the fight of the night.
I think it's a fight of the night. I think
potential.
This has potential to be fight of the year so far. I feel like it's been a weird. It's been a weird year. It's been a weird year.
We got the SBG versus the Abercrombie model. I don't think it's Abercrombie. It's like Guess or GQ or some bullshit. Shit name.
Fancy.
Vogue. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying anymore.
He's. I think you're just touting off lady magazines.
Yeah, exactly.
What is he a model for? I think it's something fancy like Gianni Versace or something.
Goddamn,
like
they make belts,
model.
right?
I know. I feel like I want to look it up for the ladies out there.
He's a hunk.
He is good looking.
He's if you want to see somebody that's being promoted by the UFC, Alan Joban. He has a podcast with the lady Brian or whatever. I don't think that's her name. She's the lady that's always on the UFC. She's the commentary, and she does a good job. I like her. She has good chemistry with a lot of the guys, and she can dance. I saw her dancing one time. She looked good.
Versace model.
Versace.
Gianni Versace.
So UFC's putting that on, and like Brennan and Callan had the Fox. They have that through the UFC, and he has other avenues opening up for him, and I really like how open he is about how people are like, you should stop fighting. You're a model. You don't want to ruin your face. And he's like, no. Now where I'm at with my modeling, I wouldn't have gotten the jobs if I wasn't a fighter. And I wouldn't get the amount of publicity as a fighter if I wasn't a model. So they're both...
He gets it.
He understands it. I love it. We're going to see him for a long, long time.
I know. You know, even looking at this right now, I have Nelson decision. But I think right now...
Yeah.
I know we're not getting deep into these, but right now I'm just going to change it to Joban submission.
Oh, Gunnar Nelson comes in with his credentials.
Well, then I'm going to TKO. No, but I feel like it could go submission too.
Damn.
But this is what I think now that I'm looking at this. Gunnar Nelson has gone to decision with Maya, which we know, huge. He's also gone to decision with Rick Story.
Yep.
I think Joban has credentials in wrestling that are as par to Rick Story.
10th Planet Disciple.
Yeah, and so I'm not worried. I think Joban is going to be... I think he's underrated. I think he's like Gamebred in the same category. I think he's this... So I'm going to change it. I think that I can see him ground and pound at the end, but I also can see him do the Nate Diaz where Gunny gives up his back and then he puts him in the neck.
I can't give a solid on anything yet. I can't even give you one right now. We got a whole week ahead of us still. I got to really start to break this sucker down and look at the camp footage of what I'm seeing. That's what I find most valuable is the current camp footage in it.
What do you right now? How do you feel about it? Right now, I know we got footage to jump in.
I was leaning Joban decision, but I didn't want because I was gonna say I have a whole. I'm on the Joe bandwagon. Been for a while. He's put in wins.
I've known you.
Yeah, he's had wins that he should have won. And he's pulled through on fights where I'm like, oh, you're a model. You're not worried about getting... I feel
like he's so cheap on DraftKings. I just don't see him getting submitted. I really thought about this in every way.
Planet Purple Belt.
I just don't see him getting submitted. And that was the number one thing. I can see Gunny winning by a decision, just swarming him the whole time and staying on him. But I just think Joban is schlick.
So the interesting thing with Gunnar Nelson is his last win was a submission versus Tumenov 10 months ago. Lobov came in looking especially ripped recently. This is in the UK. We gotta look. I just gotta look at current footage of Gunnar Nelson and give my definitive. Not that saying he's a doper. I don't think he is. He's probably one of the few stoic guys that's really honorable and takes it as a martial art. But I've seen people that I didn't think did back in the day or pop. So we'll see.
And it's a Rio card.
This isn't a Rio card.
Oh, it's not?
This is in the UK.
London.
Yeah,
sorry, everyone. I'm so ahead.
No, that's this weekend coming up. And then the main event, Manawa versus Corey Anderson. This is a fun.
I know. I have the underdog on this.
Big underdog.
I know.
Big underdog.
I know. I think
big.
it's crazy.
We don't even have to say it. We'll get into that later on in the week.
I don't mind even talking about it at
I don't think you need to because if people know the sport, they'll be like, what? And I'll be like, what? And then we'll be like, all right, I got that. You can describe it.
I know. I just felt like we made people sit through so much other talk that we should give them a little something about the main card.
Okay, the main event. I mean, the credentials, Jimmy Manawa has looked amazing.
Where are you at right now?
I am feeling like it's, at the very least, Manawa TKO round 1 or 2.
So you think it's a walk?
The way he looked against Vincent OSP was garbage. Not garbage. He's not.
We're trying to take that out of our
But
fight
he is
category.
not as high a caliber as he's made up to be. He's not a prospect. OSP is not a prospect. People keep saying, oh, he's a prospect.
overrated.
By far one of the most overrated fighters. So the fact that he looked good against him isn't saying much, but OSP doesn't get finished often, and he flat knocked him dead. He lost to Johnson, TKO, but that's not really like that happened.
And then he had a really great win
against Blachowicz, and I had Blachowicz in that fight. I thought the wrestling was going to come through. The fact that Manawa proved in that fight the wrestling, he could get through it, and we came to find out after that he had a blown ACL coming into that fight and won a decision against Blachowicz. Think about that. So then his knockout to freaking Anderson, it might have been a blown ACL against Gustafsson. No. He lost to Gustafsson legitimately, but that was over 3 years ago. It's a long, long time. 10 months ago, or as of 5 months ago, TKO and a year, 6 months since his Anthony Johnson. I think that Anderson is also a very...
Look at Anderson. He looked killer against O'Connell.
Yeah.
Meh.
Okay.
Meh. Decision split against Tua.
Okay.
Who has been looking good his last 3 fights?
John Vellante.
I agree.
And
I know.
Nogueira. And
I feel like they're of the
I
same
agree.
group category.
But which of those guys that I just named has looked as quick and fluid as Manoa has in his last few fights?
Which of these 2 guys has been knocked out in the last 5 years more than once?
Yeah.
Neither. Like, look at Lawler decision.
That was
And
a
that's
rough
a
fight.
juiced Lawler. That's a juiced Lawler.
The verdict is I'm not sure the verdict. He's appealing it. I don't know, or unless he stopped appealing it, then I gotta say yeah.
Yeah, I
But he's
just
at it, yeah.
I think he has a better gas tank than Manoa, and I think he's gonna grind Manoa
He wrestles.
out.
He wrestles.
I think it's gonna be boring. I think he's gonna grind him out, and I don't think Manoa has a gas tank. I think he needs that quick finish, or it's boo boo boo.
Anderson is a decision fighter. He has power because everybody has power.
I just don't think we don't know that Manoa doesn't give up. We don't know anything about Manoa in the third round with the kind of pressure Corey Anderson has. And Corey Anderson doesn't have the chin that has been knocked out. So I feel like everything that Manoa is used to happening isn't going to happen in this fight. So, anyways, we can get more into that.
Oh, yeah.
Because I could change my opinion tonight.
I could change mine as well. Well, that's why I'm like,
But I am going to save my card right now because I do like to keep it. That's what we have learned, you guys. Sometimes we change our fights in the middle of these podcasts and then we get to the end of the week and we did not press save.
On
and we are
Tapology,
so bummed.
You gotta press it on tap.
Yeah, you guys.
It sucks.
Tapology has a really clean format. I know other people follow other things. We just like how Tapology, you can put your favorite fighters in, your own ranking systems, weight classes, everything. So... And it gives you a nice, clean little version of your card. Fits perfectly on the iPhone to snap a little screenshot and send it to your friends. Or just flip back and forth between that and your DraftKings.
So,
yeah.
Stay tuned for the rest of the week. We'll be coming out with more. We got a fight week on our hands.
Fight week!
Let's move the beat!